Alright, this is a general reading for the sign of Capricorn. And I'm going to do a tarot card reading using the Mythic tarot from Greene. 9-card spread with a bottom card and a cut. And I'm also going to do an astrological analysis for the sign of Capricorn based on the Leo New Moon that was earlier today. So I've been feeling into the Capricorn energies, shuffling. One card came out. I'm going to shuffle a little more. I'm going to lay the cards out first and feel into it, and then we'll talk about it. Alright, let's go with this. Alright. First off, we start with the Wheel of Fortune. So in this depiction we see the 3 women here. I did not read the mythologies, I'm just feeling into the cards. Typically with the Wheel of Fortune you get the fixed signs of Aquarius, Leo, Taurus, and Scorpio. But here we have the 3 women, one holding the rod that has the golden thread, another pulling it, and another with scissors ready to cut it. Deep within the cave of self, and through it is the world as potential. Now the 4 figures here, one's standing on top or sitting on top, usually where Capricorn is. The other one is being rolled over underneath. Another one's climbing down and one's climbing up. Cycles. Fate, destiny. Potentials and absolutions. Absolution gives birth to contradiction. So we started with this Wheel of Fortune, opportunity, potential to be realized. We look at this new moon that's happening. It's in the house of transformation for Capricorn, so it's possibly, and I've got the sense of within the cave of the self here. And all things begin within us, all potential. Next we've got the 7 of Cups here. In this depiction we see this maiden sitting on a stone, surrounded by the ocean of emotion. And up above her is the clouds of illusion and delusion with all these different cups, all these opportunities, all these potentials. And she's praying, she's looking to the symbols, to the goddess, the higher expressions in life to help guide her on which choice to make. Which emotion should she follow? A lot of times we're grounded in the here and now. We're grounded by our circumstances and the relationship dynamics which we have around us, obligation, responsibility. And as we sit in that mode of being, the emotions within us, the quietude of contentment and discontent grows around us. Until we can no longer see the land, we're just isolated here and we've got these choices. So perhaps you're going within the cave of self to figure out what is your potential, what is your opportunity in a world that is changing. Maybe you're becoming more open to the symbology of life to help fuel this creative new expression of yourself, this alpha omega, this fool. How do you step? What journey do you take? Now the fool here is wearing the reef, about to step off the cliff into the clouds of potential. The hawk here is perched. The hawk sees all, and the fool is staring off into the unknown, into the sky, moving with conviction, knowing that whatever step they make, as long as it's rooted in faith, it's not a misstep, it's not a mistake. Next card is the Five of Cups here. A lot of the signs have gotten this card. Now in this depiction you see 4 cups spilled, emptied out, and the 5th cup is just sitting there idle. The contents are still in it. This maiden, she forgot about the cup of the self, the love of the self. She sees this figure, this potential, this 2 of Cups possibly here. This divine counterpart, this recognition of the love for self, fleeting, about to fly over the ocean of emotion towards the hidden, illuminated by that within the moonlight. She's holding the eternal flame though. She's got the fire of the self, what we're cultivating in these times. She's holding it to use to light the way so that she can follow that figure to her own cup, the Ace of Cups. Next card out is this Hierophant here. So this process, whatever we're going through, whatever you're going through at this time, it speaks to me of the cultivation of the higher understanding. Now we've got this Centaur King here. It looks like Chiron with a crown, holding the doctrine in one hand and throwing up the Ronnie James Dio symbol. The light of the self being realized through the processes of life and the foundation from which we have created, the foundation which has kept us safe, the structures of this world which have held us so that we could cultivate teachings, cultivate higher meaning. And it is through this cultivation, through these foundations with which we can create abundance. And I see here this, looks like a mermaid with a crown, holding a coin. Maybe someone threw a coin into the wishing well, and they had to realize the power of themselves before they could swim down in this form to go grab it, to bring it to realization, to bring it to fulfillment. On the land, on the shore, we see all these vines with grapes. We see there's fertility. We see abundance in the background, these fields of whatever they are, I don't know. Someone's growing something back there. So what have you been cultivating through the emotional processing of your experiences? What higher lessons have been coming to you through the lowest of lows, through the conditioning of your surroundings? What transformation have you been on? Maybe you're going to be realizing that in these times. Next is the Knight of Swords. Quick moving insights, communication, direction. Here we can see 2 on the horse. This reminds me of Gemini. So maybe you are coming into union with that which you have held back, that which you have hidden, that which has been repressed is being brought into awareness through following your passion, speaking your truth, pointing into the storms, and choosing your delusion over the illusions of what once was. When we do that in life, it leads us to this 10 of Wands a lot of times, because we realize that we have isolated ourselves for good reason, for noble reasons. But the passion which had been burning within us begins to burn the world around us down. It begins to burn us down. We feel trapped by that repressed passion. In the distance we see this boat sitting on still waters. The boat doesn't look in good shape, but it's still floating. And at your feet is the golden ram, the golden fleece. So this is the ending and the beginning of a new expression of your passion. And that exactly is what's happening with the new moon in Leo in your house of transformation. Realizing the self anew. Realizing the past which has bound you to help to cultivate the fire, the spirit within you is fading away, and now it's time for you to stand in your power. How do you share the passion that you have cultivated in life? Now we see in the distance here we've got another centaur holding the scroll, throwing up something. I think it's the Hierophant. So now you're coming into an awareness. Do you feed this higher calling? Do you give some of your passion to that? Now we have Chiron in Aries right now. It's the healing of the wounded mind, the self, your own expression. How do you bring the culmination of your spirit, what you forged in life, how do you bring that into being? On the bottom of the deck was this, the 3 of Swords. When you begin to hold your fire, when you begin to come to Jesus, so to speak, with the truth of your past, all the programming, all the conditioning, everything that you've gone through, when you start to see that others have wounded you because there was a wound within you that you were trying to reconcile, and you needed the world around you, and you needed these dynamics to drive the point home so that you could be reborn. So there's a dead king here laying in a sarcophagus full of water, the emotions which hold you down. A lot of times when we got wounds, we meet people and dynamics and situations to help bring that wound into awareness. And in that process, we find the strength of our own healing. We find the value of the healing. And we cultivate the power of this King of Pentacles. This card often does represent Capricorn, one of the most powerful manifestation signs out there if you look at astrology from a dynamic perspective. Now behind you, you have the black sheep, the goat to the left, and then you've got the 3 noble servants to the right. The expectations on one hand, and what you have put down within yourself and shut away on the other hand. But as you can see, this king allows the black sheep closer than the three servants. He's more balanced within himself, knowing what he can do when he comes into union with the shadow within. At his foot is a pile of coins. Sits on this nice oaken throne, holding the golden pentacle. So standing in your power is about the reconciliation of the past with the here now. Knowing there are no mistakes, knowing that there's transgressions which help to cultivate us, help us to realize our own power and our own value. Now let's get into the astrological analysis real quick. Alright, so I pulled up a chart here for today, this Leo New Moon, and I'm using Western Tropical Astrology here. And if I'm doing a consultation with an individual, I typically use the Porphyry house system, but for the sake of simplicity and to keep the sanctity of the dynamics intact, I went with a whole sign house system, since this is a general analysis. Now Saturn is the ruler of Capricorn. It's the chart ruler if you're the ascendant, and Saturn is in the third house, the house of mind, in relation to Pisces, spirit, the potential, the ineffable. It's a tricky place, but it gives you a lot of fruitful power for creation, because it is the void of potential. But let's jump into this new moon here in Leo. You can see it's in the 8th house. Now the new moon was at 23 degrees Leo in the Martian decan of Leo, the 3rd decan. Now there's a stellium here. We had Venus retrograde in a balsamic phase, closing phase conjunction with the new moon. And we have Black Moon Lilith in a new phase conjunction to this new moon. Both are feminine aspects of us. Now, Venus retrograde, she's been retrograde for 12 days or so. She was stationed retrograde for 11 days in a yod with Neptune down here and the South Node, which had just moved into Libra. So Venus is being transformed, and she just had a conjunction with the Sun, a Kazimi, where the purity of your nurturing expression, your feminine expression, what love you felt for the self, what love you feel for others, how you exchange that love with the world and with other people, where the purity of that could be known through the disillusionment, through the fires of the Sun here in Leo. The ego, the will. So she's being reborn as she moves direct out of her shadow path. She'll go direct in about a week. She'll station direct at 12 degrees Leo, which is the North Node of Neptune, which was informing that quincunx with her, the working transformation. So we're working the transformation of this love that we hold for ourselves and we share with others. How have you compromised the value, the true value of your own expression for the vision of another? Have you compromised the sanctity of yourself for the obligations of the world around you and the dynamics and the relationships with which you forge ahead in this world? Now Leo is about a lot of things, but in this particular time it's about the purity of the spirit, the fire within you, the child within, the one who came into this world pure, learning all the stuff of this world so that it could emulate and fit in and integrate into the teachings that it had to give us. The world is like a school in a lot of ways. And so we're rediscovering the purity of ourself, the purity of our fire through a new emotional awareness, and we're transforming this in relationship to what has been and what will be, to who we truly are deep at our core and who the world expects us to be. Now, if you look at the world, you can see where systems, beliefs are falling away. Governments are changing. Religions are changing. What we thought was foundational is changing. So we have to seek the purity within ourselves to bring that forward into the new creations. Now we've got this trine with the North Node in Aries, and it's also trining Chiron, the wound itself. The wounds that we carry from our ancestors, from our families, from the karmas and the dharmas of all these ideas and concepts. The expectations which we were trying to live up to no longer serve us individually. We have to come into the purity of why we're here and bring that forward in order to truly honor the ancestors, in order to truly honor the progeny of whatever it is we create in this world. And that's what a lot of us are doing. And it's by relating not only to the world differently, but most importantly to ourselves differently. And that's what this transformation is. You know, you're transforming your emotional awareness through acknowledging and cultivating the fire, the passion within you, and bringing that forward in a way which is more beneficial not only to you, but to others. So that North Node trine moving from Taurus, it's the value, the spirit of the value is being realized and held within us. Now that sextile with the North Node, we're looking at the world differently, we're looking at our direction, our path differently, because we're relating differently. And in this process, when you step into your desire, right down here, basically in your first house, this transformation of self through acknowledging your desires, then you bring a harvest, you bring the bounty to yourself in this world. The world, it rewards those who are willing to step out on faith, those who are willing to face their fears. It rewards you either monetarily or in spirit, which is the most important. Now we've got Uranus and Jupiter squaring Venus here. Uranus is a perfect square with the new moon. It's also trining Mars, and that new moon was in the Martian decan, and Uranus is in the Saturnian decan. So there's a transformation of your self-expression in relation to higher wisdom, in relation to power dynamics, where you subdued what you knew to be right for others because they couldn't handle it. And maybe things that you suppressed because you couldn't handle it, because you didn't understand the language yet. You didn't have the context to give meaning, to give gravity to what it is you felt to be right. So this is Prometheus bringing the fire, anointing spirit with new will, new vitality. Prometheus, the sky father, the father of Kronos, Saturn. When Saturn begins to fall into contentment and the structures begin to crumble, Saturn needs to be reborn, and Saturn's in this disillusionment period. So your mind is changing as your self-expression is rising. So your creativity, your sense of what feels good to you, what honors you, what feeds and nourishes your Venusian needs, and how do you express that in this world? How do you create through that energy? Is being revitalized, reawakened, understood. So this higher learning here, with Uranus trining not only Mercury and Mars, but also Capricorn, we've got this grand Earth trine that's going to be gaining strength in the next few days. So the self-expression of the wisdom, of the higher meanings of all the experiences, everything you've learned is being brought into your awareness, and you are transforming through that. Now Mercury here is very strong in Virgo. It's the strongest sign to bring the metaphysical to the mundane for Mercury to be in. This is Hermes Trismegistus and is being anointed by Prometheus. So the knowledge bearer, we're going to have to bear the pain of this knowledge at least long enough to bring it into fruition so that we can lead the way for ourselves, so that we can acknowledge the greater teaching, this 9th house, 5th house connection here. We've also got this, where you're bringing your cultivation to form through your life. So we've got Pallas Athena here in a balsamic phase conjunction with Mercury. Pallas Athena is divine wisdom and intellect combined. It is the power you gain through perception, and it is becoming an awareness of higher teaching, of you're synthesizing what it's all for and how you can optimally bring that into your life through growing awareness. And how may you share that with the world? By going into this world in relation to a new vision, a new direction, or seeing an old direction in a new way because you're relating to yourself more authentically. Honoring that which has been forgotten to bring it into life for future days. So now we've got this Neptune, the bringer of spirit through the void ineffable, in a transformative quincunx with the South Node. So everything we've learned since the South Node's been through all these signs, but most importantly through your sign. What was it for? What beliefs had you shed? What was the true meaning of the deep emotional experiences you went through, and how do you now relate to that? You have to bring it into action by living it, bringing it to life through interacting with the world, with your direction, with your path. When you do that, you tap into the roots of the ancestors, and you tap into Pluto's evolutionary intention, which is to make your soul aware in the here and now through imbibing new spirit in your awareness, living through new spirit. Pluto brings gifts to those who transform, and we transform many ways. Sometimes it's involuntary. When you're voluntary with it, then you recognize the benefits of the lessons. You recognize the peaks from those valleys, and you can stand in that power. And that's what Leo is to a Capricorn. It is the transformation of your spirit standing at the tip of the peak in the light of a new day. And you bring that torch forward through that awareness. Now quickly down here we got Vesta in your 6th house, house of work. It is in the data analysis. All the stuff we've been told, everything you thought you knew, you're seeing where it wasn't quite right. So we're starting to see where there is information not on the table. How do we find what that information is? By destroying all that had been that's no longer of service to us. How do we use that debris, set it on fire to spark the spirit within us, the spirit of service that we can carry into this transformation? The spirit of service to the self, and then sharing it. Simply by being it, living it, being the example. And there aren't many better signs for that than Capricorn. Alright, so that's what I got for you. If you like the reading, if you'd like a personal astrological analysis, go to my website and schedule an appointment. But other than that, thanks for watching, listening, and being.